Okay, the first item of business this afternoon is consideration of Business Motion 19081 in the name of Graham Day on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau on changes to the business. I invite any member wishing to speak against the motion to press the request to speak button. Call on the Minister to move the motion.
Move, Presiding Officer.
And no member has asked to speak against the motion. Therefore, the question is that motion 19081 be agreed. Are we all agreed? Yes. Parliament is agreed. The next item of business is portfolio questions. The portfolio on this occasion is climate action and energy and transport. There is quite a bit of demand for supplementaries, so brevity in questions and responses would be welcome. I note that question number 1, Michael Matheson, is not present in the chamber. I've not received an explanation for that. I would expect one in due course. I call then question 2, Faisal Chowdhury.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what engagement it has had with stakeholders regarding the development and scaling up to sustainable aviation fuel production in light of the need to support the infrastructure, skills and supply chains required to make Scotland a leader in the sector.
Minister Jim Fairley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Scottish Government, along with economic development agencies, regularly engages with aviation stakeholders, including on matters relating to sustainable aviation fuel or SAF. The Scottish Government's aviation statement set out our vision for aviation and recognised the potential significant economic and environmental benefits of using SAF.
Faisal Chowdhury.
Thank you very much for the answer, Minister. Would you like to organise a meeting with me to see how we can work together with the stakeholders?
Always through the Chair. Minister.
Well, there are a number of stakeholder engagement meetings already ongoing. I'm not sure if Faisal Chowdhury has looked for some other means of having that, so I'm quite happy to have a meeting with him. But what that is going to lead to, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, I call question number 3, Rachel Hamilton.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what engagement it has had with community groups that have raised concerns regarding the proliferation of energy infrastructure, including pylons, battery energy storage systems and wind farms.
Cabinet Secretary Gillian Martin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It's vital that communities can have their say on proposed developments. Ministers invite representations from community councils and public consultations for Electricity Act applications and carefully consider the views of community groups. Our fourth National Planning Framework ensures that we assess potential cumulative impacts on communities and nature. While not commenting on the applications, officials have engaged with MSPs and community groups, and I co-chaired a recent roundtable with UK Energy Minister Michael Shanks, which had community group and developers representatives in attendance to encourage best practice in community engagement and the coordination of development.
Rachel Hamilton.
I thank the Minister for her answer, but despite what she says, communities feel their voices are being ignored and that the SNP government are riding roughshod over their concerns. So will the Minister put in place, firstly, a moratorium, as asked by my Scottish Conservative colleagues, on all new renewable applications until she has met with all interested parties, not just developers, to bring forward a coherent and transparent energy policy?
Cabinet Secretary.
To meet groups opposed or in favour of any development would risk breaching the ministerial code. This is something that I have explained time and again. Cumulative effect is already taken into consideration by MPF 4. It's important to point out...
I'll take the point of order at the end of the response.
It's important to point out that with regard to any electricity transmission infrastructure, regulation is reserved to the UK Government. Indeed, the planned build-out of new transmission infrastructure was set in train by the UK Government under the Conservatives, but additionally, when Conservative ministers were in post, they repeatedly called for a mandating community benefits and indeed community engagement guidelines, and my calls were ignored.
Point of order, Rachel Hamilton.
Presiding Officer, I have carefully looked at the ministerial code, and it says that the minister involved in the planning decision should only hold such a meeting if it is possible to meet all interested parties in respect of a particular proposal, or, as an absolute minimum, to offer all parties the opportunity of such a meeting. And I want to put it on the record, Presiding Officer, that I cannot understand why the Minister continually is giving us the wrong information on this particular ministerial code issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Hamilton. You know that the content of ministerial responses is not the matter for the Chair. I call question 4, Karen Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what assessment it has made of the impact of the UK Government's energy policy, including licensing decisions and investment priorities on jobs in Scotland's offshore energy sector and on progress towards a just transition.
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Decisions on offshore oil and gas licensing, consenting and the associated fiscal regime are all matters currently reserved to the UK Government. The Scottish Government, along with industry, workers and communities, is currently awaiting the UK Government's responses to its recent consultations. These will have a major bearing on the future of North Sea energy sector, and in particular we're calling for an end to the Energy Profits Levy, which we believe is having a negative impact on investment in clean energy, oil and gas decommissioning and the shared energy supply chain. We continue to call on the UK Government to support a just transition by approaching its decisions for North Sea oil and gas projects on a rigorously evidence-less, case-by-case basis, with climate compatibility and energy security as key considerations.
Karen Adam.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. With up to 400 energy jobs at risk every fortnight in the North East, does the Minister share my concern that the UK Government's incoherent energy strategy is destabilising Scotland's workforce? And do they agree that Scotland has all of the energy but none of the powers, and that only with independence can we properly manage our offshore mix of oil, gas and renewables to protect jobs and deliver a fair transition?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I do agree with Karen Adam that it's only with the full powers of independence that we'll be able to fully deliver a just transition. In the meantime, workers must be at the heart of that transition, and the Scottish Government will support the energy workforce with the limited powers available to us. More than £120 million has already been invested in the North East through the Just Transition Fund and the Energy Transition Fund. This has helped create green jobs, support innovation and secure the highly skilled workforce of the future. But EPL, not only is the Energy Profits Levy putting jobs at risk in oil and gas, it's having an effect on the decommissioning activities. It would also provide work for the energy workforce, particularly in the North East. But more concerning is the effect that it will have on the development of offshore wind, with companies with licence agreements of oil and gas companies also having been involved in ScotWind projects.
A couple of supplementaries. First, Douglas Lumsden.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As much as I don't like the Labour Government's energy policy, at least they have the bottle to actually publish one. John Swinney's government have a presumption against new oil and gas, but wannabe First Minister Stephen Flynn seems to want to the drilling to continue. So can the Cabinet Secretary state when the energy policy will be published so the devolved government's position will finally be clarified?
Cabinet Secretary.
We have published many policy decisions on energy. As Douglas Lumsden asked for policy decisions, he need only go to the government website to see a plethora of energy policy decisions that are there for him to view.
And Willie Rennie.
A power that the Scottish Government does have is over the consenting for offshore renewables, and we know from Berwick Bank that it did take quite a long time for that to be concluded, and there were previous concerns about the number of professionals and planners that we had within the Marine Directorate. Has that shortage of personnel now been resolved, and will be able to have swifter consenting process from now on?
Cabinet Secretary.
I thank Willie Rennie for that question. We've actually doubled the capacity of the Energy Consents Unit as a result of feedback from the sector. Not only have we doubled it at a time of which there was actually a cessation of recruitment within the Scottish Government because of pressures on spending, the ECU recruited double the amount of people that they originally had, but also we actually have apprenticeships associated with the ECU now. So we're hopefully having a pipeline of even more qualified personnel coming into the Scottish Government. I would like to just add, in terms of we have a commitment for 11 months for a decision on the consents.
Thank you. Question 5, Eleanor Whittam.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, and may I apologise to yourself and the Chamber for having to leave before the end of this question session, and thank you for your permission to do so. to ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on the Scottish Biodiversity Strategy to 2045, including in relation to riparian woodland planting.
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. We published our strategic framework for biodiversity in Scotland in November 2024, and the framework has three elements. The long-term strategy to 2045 sets out the ambition for halting loss and substantially restoring biodiversity. Then the first in a series of delivery plans, which contains over 100 actions, and statutory targets for nature restoration to drive action and delivery. And native riparian woodlands are a very important habitat in Scotland, both for biodiversity and for people. The woodlands support a wide variety of plants and animals, diversity increasing as the woodland matures, and have a critical role in cooling and maintaining water quality in burns and rivers to the benefit of rare and vulnerable species such as freshwater pearl, mussel and Atlantic salmon. They also provide people and communities with natural flood management by moderating the flow of water from the hills into the rivers.
Eleanor Whittam.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for her answer. There is currently a lot of good work being done in my constituency of Carrickcumnock and Doon Valley surrounding riparian woodland planting, specifically the work of Symington Community Council in partnership with other groups to introduce extensive areas of woodlands along the Upper Pow Burn in order to create natural habitats and nature networks to reduce the flood risk downstream. Can the Cabinet Secretary advise what support has been provided to communities to support such endeavours?
Cabinet Secretary.
I thank Elena Whittam for that question. I commend Symington Community Council's ambition for nature restoration through planting riparian woodlands in the Upper Pow Burn, as Elena Whittam just outlined, and I hope to see other communities throughout Scotland following their lead if we are to address the twin crises of biodiversity loss and climate change. But crucially, this kind of initiative can also benefit communities and individuals downstream with natural flood management and improved water quality. And eligible applicants can apply to the Forestry Grant Scheme to support riparian planting, where an enhanced payment rate is available. And our Nature Restoration Fund has also supported riparian planting as part of wider landscape-scale restoration projects.
Supplementary. Mercedes Vialba.
Thank you. Invasive non-native species are one of the key drivers of biodiversity loss in Scotland, including through the spread of invasive tree seed to adjoining lands such as peatland. Research from the Royal Society of Edinburgh into public subsidies for tree planting and forestry show that large, dense stands of non-native conifers like Sitka spruce are having an adverse effect on biodiversity. So can I ask what consideration the Cabinet Secretary has given to the recommendations in the report to discontinue subsidies for commercial non-native conifer planting?
Cabinet Secretary.
I will have to actually defer with regard to woodland planting to my colleagues in the Rural Affairs portfolio. However, the responsibility for action on invasive non-native species does lie with me, and Mercedes Vialba knows that it has my full attention.
Question 6. Annie Wells.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what measures it is taking to improve night-time public transport connections between city centres and suburban areas, including support for late-night bus and rail services to improve affordability, safety and service reliability.
Minister.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Scottish Government delivered all the powers within the Transport Scotland Act 2019, enabling local transport authorities working with stakeholders to improve local bus services over the longer term according to their local needs. The complexity of rail network management and maintenance would not currently allow night-time rail operations. However, recent ScotRail timetable changes introduced later services and increased evening frequency on some of the suburban routes like East Kilbride, Lanark and North Clyde. Additional late services from the Exhibition Centre and for specific events have also been added where possible. ScotRail closely collaborates with the British Transport Police and its Travel Safe team, who, along with staff hired for specific events and late services, are enhancing passenger safety. And the removal of the ScotRail peak fares for good and the planned £2 bus fare pilot will further improve affordability for passengers.
Annie Wells.
I thank the Minister for that answer. But while I welcome any steps the Government is taking to improve late-night transport links, will the Minister also acknowledge the added pressure caused by the significant number of black Hackney taxis in Glasgow that have been taken off the road due to the LEZ regulations? This reduction in licensed taxis makes it even harder, particularly for women, to get home safely at night. What additional support or urgent interventions will the Government consider ensuring safe, affordable and reliable options are available to everyone travelling after hours, especially in areas where late-night buses or trains are limited?
Minister.
Well, there are many factors that lead to business decisions for people not to actually carry out services. But as I've already outlined, the Scottish Government has put in a number of, or the ScotRail and Scottish Government have put in a number of interventions to allow safe, affordable travel for people at all times of day and evening.
Thank you. Question 7, Sarah Boyack.
To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on its progress on the development and expansion of heat networks across Scotland, including any plans it has to accelerate deployment to meet heat network decarbonisation targets.
Cabinet Secretary.
The Scottish Government has supported local authorities to prepare local heat and energy efficiency strategies, which have identified opportunities for district heating schemes in every area of Scotland. Scotland's Heat Network Fund has awarded £11.9 million since 2022, while our Heat Network Support Unit is building a pipeline of investable projects, having so far supported 42 projects with funding of £2.3 million. We are undertaking a strategic review of the role for Scottish Government, local authorities and the private sector in deploying heat networks and will inform Parliament of our next steps in due course.
Sarah Boyack.
Cabinet Secretary, given the experience in Sweden where over half their homes are now heated by district heat networks, expected to be almost entirely from renewable or waste sources, and in the Netherlands and Denmark where municipalities have had statutory heat planning in place for decades, could the Cabinet Secretary outline what additional investment the Scottish Government will now allocate to our councils, given the huge financial and staff pressures they face, not just to see we meet the Scottish Government's targets by 2030, but also to see municipally owned heat networks which will be accountable and can reinvest profits back into their communities?
Cabinet Secretary.
The scale of the amount of heat networks that need to be built in Scotland obviously is something that we are trying to put a strategy behind, because they are very investable propositions. Obviously, local authorities will be able to invest in getting heat networks off the ground, but they also need to be able to crowd in private finance as well. I'll point to a couple of councils in particular. Glasgow City Council is well ahead with heat network plans. Aberdeen City is planning to extend existing heat networks, which are powered by waste-to-energy plants. There are plans across the whole of Scotland. What we're trying to do with our strategy is bring them all together to have a portfolio of investment, because we will need to crowd in private finance in order to get the scale of the developments that we need, for exactly the reasons that Sarah Boyack outlined in her first question to me.
And supplementary, Jackie Dunbar.
As we move towards electrification to facilitate the decarbonisation of our homes, it's vital we ensure clean heat is both affordable and accessible. Will the Cabinet Secretary join me in calling on the UK Labour Government to act urgently to lower energy bills, to alleviate fuel poverty and facilitate the investment and take-up of clean energy technologies?
Cabinet Secretary.
Yes, a country like Scotland should not have fuel poverty, and the Labour Government did pledge to cut bills by £300, but now they're on average over £280 higher than the time of the general election. UK ministers should immediately deliver a social tariff in the form of an automatic and targeted discount on energy bills to address unaffordable bills at source. And in tandem, it's critical we see urgent action in decoupling the cost of gas from the price of electricity paid by consumers. Both those actions will make a material difference in eradicating fuel poverty. These critical policies are necessary to support long-term energy affordability, protect consumers from volatile global fossil fuel prices and support investment in new heat network projects.
Briefly, Paul Sweeney.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I wonder if the Minister is familiar with the B-Neat pump project, which has been developed by Malin and Star Renewables in Glasgow. It's potentially a massive industrial opportunity for Scotland if we can scale manufacture of these river-based heat pumps that could be not only used for Scottish coastlines but exported around the world, if we can get that scaling opportunity in place. If the pricing signal is correct, as the Minister observed, but would she encourage that kind of manufacturing opportunity in Scotland as best she can?
Cabinet Secretary.
Absolutely. There's a number of projects which are using the heat from the rivers in order to transfer that into heat for homes as well. I think Paul Sweeney makes a very good point that where we are actually building out heat works, we should be doing as much manufacturing in Scotland as possible.
Thank you. And question 8, Stephanie Callaghan.
to ask the Scottish Government what steps it is taking to ensure that Scotland is ready to recycle and repurpose textile waste when the landfill ban comes into force at the end of this year.
Cabinet Secretary.
The Scottish Government has been supporting local authorities in their preparations for the ban on landfilling biodegradable municipal waste, including by increasing the amount of waste they recycle through our £70 million Recycling Improvement Fund. We recently consulted on the approach to the collection of textile waste by local authorities. That consultation closed on the 17th of June this year. The results are currently being analysed. We've also confirmed that textile products will be a key focus of our product stewardship plan, and we consider the textile sector in our forthcoming circular economy strategy.
Stephanie Callaghan.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that response, and also for recognising the innovative work by ACS Clothing in my constituency, which responded to my written question earlier this month. I know they were delighted, and I trust you'll keep championing that work from ACS and others as we all strive to close the loop in textile waste. So can I ask the Cabinet Secretary, does she agree with me that Scotland has a once-in-a-generation opportunity to lead globally in textile recycling and repurposing technologies that can help prevent textiles from going to landfill or being incinerated or exported elsewhere? And also, can I ask her to give serious consideration to establishing a Scottish industry academic consortium as part of the upcoming circular economy strategy for Scotland that she mentioned, to help accelerate textile recycling technologies into commercially viable solutions?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, as Stephanie Callaghan will know, I was very pleased to visit ACS Clothing last year to see firsthand the fantastic work that they do. They really are truly incredible, and they were able to tell me not only about the amount of clothing that they stopped going into landfill, but also they're reducing a lot of their own emissions in terms of the cleaning of the products that they then resell and the amount of water that they use. So they really are a company that is working very hard to actually reduce their own emissions. Textile products will be a key focus of the product stewardship plan. We'll also consider textiles as part of the forthcoming circular strategy consultation, and I can confirm that our proposals will include working closely with the sector, including trailblazing businesses like ACS Clothing to address barriers to circularity, and future actions to support the sustainable textile sector in Scotland will be guided by these plans and by the results of the consultation on approaches to local authority textile waste collections.
Supplementary, Sue Webber.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Cabinet Secretary, what carbon budgeting has been carried out when assessing the impact of transporting waste from Scotland to England when the landfill ban comes into force?
Cabinet Secretary.
I am working very hard with my officials and with the waste sector to make sure that we keep as much of our waste in Scotland to be recycled, and I am not going to really countenance the idea of waste being sent to landfill in England. We have a landfill ban. I am working with the sector at pace to make sure that everyone is ready for that. Local authorities have done a great deal of work in reducing the amount of waste already going to landfill, and I'm confident that we will have a solution in place.
Thank you. That concludes portfolio questions. Point of order, Douglas Lumsden.
Presiding Officer, can you offer me guidance on how I get an answer to my very simple question: when will this government release its energy strategy? I have now asked 17 times in the last year and a half for ministers to come forward with a timeline. Now, if the Cabinet Secretary has time to jet around the world selling Scotland's countryside, she surely has time to come to Parliament and release this 3 years in the making strategy. Presiding Officer, I believe it's discourteous to this place, falls far short of the standards that you yourself set for this place, and shows a lack of courtesy and respect to members and the Chair that is demanded for in the MSP Code of Conduct. So I seek your guidance on what other methods I can use to get an answer that my constituents and business deserve.
Thank you, Mr Lumsden, and for advance notice. As you will be aware, Mr Lumsden, the content of the response, as I suggested to your colleague earlier, is not a matter for the Chair. It's a matter for the Scottish Government. You have put your point on record. With that, we will move to the next item of business, but there will be a brief pause to allow front benches to change.